Hello guys, so welcome back to the crew calling all units. Comparison test number 34. We're still doing the 4097 circuit specs, and this time we're gonna have a look at the sports category. Immediately gonna start because we have like 7 contenders. The first one is a 765 horsepower, 953 Newton meter torque for the Bmw M4. Sorted in a DTM livery. Deutsche Tourwagen Mannschaften or something. The DTM. You have the Bmw M4, the Mercedes C63 and the Audi RS5, which are for competing in the German touring car championships. This is not a bad car, but it might, have a few problems here and there on this track. The problem in this game is with many of these circuit specs, they have some sort of body kit which you cannot alter, you cannot mess about a bit. Already here you see it. Just a small jump and the car reacts kind of funny. That doesn't mean that this car is not that good. On a circuit, real circuit, Golden Hills, Laguna Seca, Sebring, it's kinda okay. Speed wise it's kinda okay, but it slides about a bit too much. That's the problem on a track like this, and it does not like bumps in any sort. So if you get some jumps or elevations here or there, then you have a problem with this car. Brakes are, well, kinda okay. There are cars out there with better brakes though. Situation like here, two-wheel action into the wall. Just like small elevation going on the bridge, and it has a problem with it. That's also sort of why I picked this track for the circuit text. It's pretty twisty, it goes uphill one way on the mountain, and then at the end it goes downhill, so you get a little faster section, but sliding through every corner. It's not as stable. If you have the car to flick around from one corner to another, it's not that stable as it should be. Already mentioned it before, I just keep on driving no matter the conditions. In this case, it is dry, but it has been raining, so the road is still wet, which makes it slide about a bit more here or there, but that's how it is. If you do PvP or so, you're dealing with these conditions as well. It's a bit of a fight, but it's not like it's extremely oversteering, or you get some understeer under braking though, which I do not like. Prefer oversteer. A bit more fight with the car, but at least you sort of know where you're going. Like here in this hairpin section, it's pretty stable. As you will see later on, there are cars who have way more problems in these corners. Bit of understeer here under braking. That's what you deal with this car. Of course, we hit a wall there in the beginning of the test, so it can definitely go a few seconds faster than the 340.8 here, which that is sort of what we get by hitting a few things here and there, but nevertheless it was never gonna win this category on this track. Might be different if you go to a circuit, because the car itself it's not that bad, but it is it's not the best either. Contender number 2, the BMW Z4. 705 horsepower, 922 Newton meters of torque, 1100 kilograms. Also this one sort of has like a body kit, and that is a bit of a problem. Not in its way, because all these circuit specs, most of them have a body kit, which also makes it already a bit logic that some of the better circuit specs do not suffer so much from the body kit, or they do not have a body kit, and yeah, that's a big difference. This car is pretty okay, it just has a bit slower acceleration in the higher gears, but already more stable on that jump, as you can see, compared to the M4 for instance. But I think the M4 is a little bit faster in acceleration, so like here on this uphill you really need to boost or you're not going anywhere. Hello car. That already compared to the M4 hit there on the wall. Here we come to the two-wheel corner. Yeah, so they're the same as with the M4. Little two-wheel action and you go into the wall there. You can take that corner a bit more aggressive and then sort of slide through, that might work. So this, a little stone or a little rock on the side and you immediately get lift up, and that's due to the body kits. That's why they are probably circuit cars. But yeah, there are not that many. This is not really a circuit racing game, so there are a few circuits about. Sebring and Golden Hills and Laguna Seca and all those, but whether you use this car in summit events, in PvP and such, so that's also why I test them on a road track and not on the circuit itself. If you want circuit racing, then then you're gonna end up with games like Forza Motorsports or Gran Turismo or Assetto Corsa or maybe even Project Car. So this is an open world game, so you kinda drive in the open world as well when you test cars. That's my opinion on it. Okay. Hello Nightbug. From 1 second to another, we're in the middle of the night. Which might also look a bit dark on the video. There's no time to adjust the brightness, because it happens in 1 second. It's a bit smaller than the M4, which also makes it a bit faster. Although we hit the wall there with the M4, so I'm assuming they're sort of equal. 334. But also here with this one we hit a car and it's still the fact that it's smaller and a bit more stable will make it a bit faster on a track like this. But also this one will not be the winner. 935 horsepower, 1100 Newton meters of torque, but also almost 1200 kilograms. The competition for the M4 is the C63 touring car or DTM. This one is DLC. It comes with one of those 4 DLC packs, or if you have the season pass, of course, you have all the DLC packs in that one season pass, because yeah, that's basically what it is. It's a car pack. Was not announced as a car pack, but that's eventually what it turned out to be. 19 extra cars if you buy the season pass. In my opinion, this is probably the best Mercedes in the game. It suffers quite a bit from corners like this. You're sliding all about, and it suffers from wheel spin quite a lot, so you have to play around with the throttle a bit more. But it has a pretty good acceleration, it has a pretty good top speed. I remember a speed trap event where we could only use German cars, I think, or even only the European cars. And in a speed trap event this thing can get 445 kilometers an hour, I believe, or maybe even more. So then you're gonna end up with this thing. Or I think it was a German qualifier where we had to do a speed trap event, and then this one is pretty good. Bit of two-wheel action, but not as much as with the 2 BMWs there on that corner. But it has decent acceleration, and it's not a bad car. There are several summit events where we already used this thing. Definitely a force to consider, especially if you're limited to certain cars, like sometimes it is the case in summit events. You can only use sports cars. This is something that you have to consider in circuit spec. Let's hit the rock. Yeah, that's what you get. Also here, body kit comes into play and you fly all over the place, but somehow got away with it and it's still controllable. So also here sort of a mistake in the run. This comparison test, as always, all of the cars are at 1497, which sort of gives them a bit more grip compared to 1299, and I might come back to that later in the videos, but that's not always best, which means that some of these cars can really benefit from the extra grip, some of the cars totally not, which also means that in some of the cases, like for instance the Huayra in performance spec, I've tested it in 1497, but meanwhile I brought it back down to 1299 because it works way better for me. And that's also some with some of these circuit specs. Although we had a bit of a fly on the rock there, a 329.7, which is the fastest time so far that we have done on our little track here. This is something definitely to consider. Yeah, we have 7 contenders. If I could take 2 to the winner's battle, this car might be one of them that goes in. But we can only take 1, and as you will see later on, it's not going to be the fastest in sports. But it is definitely a good one, especially to use here or there. Second Mercedes in the sports category, the Mercedes-Benz SL63. 917 horsepower, which is a bit less than the C63. But yeah, then we come to the problem with most of the Mercedes in this game is wheel spin and sliding about, oversteering way too much. So you're constantly sliding spinning wheels, oversteering through corners, a bit more of a fight. The C63 is way more stable, and that's why it already makes probably one of the better Mercedes in the game, if not the best. Because I'm thinking the SLS, the SLR 722, those kind of cars, they suffer from the same problem that most of the Mercedes have in this game. Wheel spinning and sliding all over the place. The same for this SL63. Once you get it going, it will get to the speed, and it's even on the specific circuits like Sebring and such, it's not even that bad. Mercedes are pretty good on the real circuits. But to drive around here on the mountain track, not so much. Not that it's bad, but due to the sliding and all in the corners, you're just gonna lose it compared to some other circuit specs. Here we go. No two-wheel action on the bridge corner, but you saw what happened. What you can't see is that I'm constantly counter steering, because this car really slides all over the place. You can probably adjust that by bringing down throttle linearity or something that don't get that much throttle every time you come out of the corner, but if you mess about or need to mess about with the settings every time you drive another car, yeah, I do not do that for the simple reason, if you do PvP or something, multiplayer racing, you don't have the time to change the settings of the car, because an event is selected and you need to come up with a car, and on top of that, yeah, I like a general setting for driving and not you're gonna have to mess about with setups and customization and stuff like that. That's where games usually lose me. Not in customization. I don't like to fiddle around with settings the whole the time. Basically, I do not want to spend more time in the garage than actually on the road in games, and so it is what it is. I drive them on sport like I drive all the cars. And for these Mercedes, that means wheel spin and a bit too much oversteer in the corners. This one is kind of okay, now that I think of it. I think the SLS is even worse for that. Has some side wings and stuff, but it's not really a body kit on this car, so it's probably also why we didn't go on two wheels on that bridge corner there. .4. It's 3 seconds slower than the C63, and with the C63 we hit some stuff, we flew over the rock. So no, C63, although it's DLC, but it's definitely the better Mercedes in this sports category. Although if you go to the real circuits, like I say, you might end up with the Mercedes here or there, because they are pretty okay on the circuits itself. Contested number 5 already, the Nissan 370Z. 621 horsepower, which is the least of this category. It's one of the 4 starters cars. And this car, yeah, the biggest problem is, again, the body kit. Has some sort of body kit on, and that gives a problem. Gives a problem on jumps and on some surfaces where it's not that smooth. But other than that, it has pretty good acceleration. It has a pretty good top speed. This thing can do about 439 or something, I think. We had the oval speed trap the other day in one of the qualifiers or summits. And then, yeah, you're gonna end up with this car for doing that oval speed trap. Good acceleration, good handling. Corners like this, not a problem. The problem that it has is, yeah, if the surface is not smooth, if you have some like this, basically a simple corner, but it was like a little jump there, and you have some problems. If you can control the car, this is yeah, definitely an option to consider. On some of the tracks you even can give, if you're used to this car, you can give the Ferrari 458, which is considered the best overall in circuit, but you can give it a run for its money. Because you sort of get the same top speed. And acceleration wise, it's of course a bit slower because that's where the Ferrari exceeds, but it's not that far off. So if you're used to this car, you can keep up with it. But I even on that, like little elevation, and you already have a little two-wheel action, which makes it harder to get into the next corner and such. So this car might surprise you occasionally. You're just driving, going to a corner, and then suddenly something happens which you do not expect at all. So you kind of have to anticipate on that when you're driving around with this thing. Also here a bit of counter steering needed, or I wouldn't make that corner. Same here, just went into the corner, got some understeer, and I couldn't even avoid that car, although I saw it coming. Slightly getting morning as well, so we are gonna have probably in the next runs get some more traffic as well. Here's a double left corner here, a bit of a problem with the steering. Good acceleration, good speed, but the handling is a bit tricky. Doesn't like sharp corners as much as some of the other cars, but also somewhere in the 330s, but yeah, I hit a car, so normally this is faster than the SL63 for instance, but 334 this time it's slower, but doesn't matter that much. It can be used for speed trap events and such. You're gonna end up with the 370Z. 736 horsepower, 800 Newton meters of torque, but it also weighs 1000 kilo only, compared to 1300 for some of the others here in this category. The Nissan Skyline. It's not a starter's car, but it is one of those cars which has almost all the specs in this game, which already makes it, yeah, sort of a must-have, because it's top 3 in street and it's also in the other specs. You can use it. In dirt it's definitely not bad. In performance it's probably the worst spec for this car, but also in rate it's not the best, but you can use it. One of the better monster specs and so on, so yeah. Overall, which is the best car if you consider all specs? Yeah, might need to figure that out, but this might be a contender. This is one of those cars in circuit spec, which I'm not doing here, but it can wall ride. So in theory I could go like fully into this wall here and stay through the wall ride that corner. You will not lose that much speed with it. bit slower on the higher gears, although we are going uphill, but there are cars out there who get like a bit better acceleration. Gonna get some more speed out of those things on this uphill section. But also here sort of have a body kit, so two-wheel action on the bridge corner there. Brakes are not super, but they are kinda okay, and you do not get anything specific. Definitely not oversteer. It's you really hit the brakes hard, you're more than likely gonna get some understeer. If you play around with the throttle a bit and get the speed a bit down for these corners, you can take these corners smoother with this thing. But the handling is kinda okay, it just... Also this one suffers from the body kit on it occasionally. Third, fourth, fifth gear acceleration is pretty okay. Just gets a bit slower in 6th and 7th gear, but double left corner here, also not really a problem for this thing. Angle switch to another corner, not a problem either. Three 27.0, which is yeah, kind of surprisingly. I know this car was kind of okay, but I did not expect it to be faster than the C63, which of course we did make some mistakes here and there with the C63, more than we did with the Skyline here. But so far it's the fastest. If we could take two cars, the C63 would definitely go also in the winner's battle. But now we're probably gonna end up with the Skyline, because this 627 rough 3400, 627 horsepower, yeah, not exactly. Or should I say, not anymore, because from what I heard is before Wildrun, this car was one of the better circuit specs. But yeah, for Wildrun they have been messing around with a lot of cars, handling wise and such, so they changed it, and yeah. This is all body kit with wing that doesn't do much for the downforce. You have like these diffusers, you have all these bits and pieces sticking out of the car, and that makes it quite, yeah, too stiff. The whole body kit thing makes this car way too stiff. Constantly need to play around with the throttle because it oversteers. When you go into corners it understeers, so yeah, not sure what they did with it, but they have been playing around with it when they brought out the Wildrun, which, yeah, sort of killed the performance of this car, I guess, and it was one of the better ones before Wildrun. I've also been fiddling with the acceleration, I think, because Now looking at the track here, this is gonna be quite a challenge when consider the fact that I also need to test the bikes later on. That might be some surprising results as well. Because also there, before the wild run, well, not really before the wild run, they came up with the bikes, and then the bikes were a bit too OP, so a couple of months later they have been messing with the bikes, and they're also a complete mess now, handling wise. Speed wise and all, they're still okay, acceleration wise not a problem, but for corners on this track it's gonna be an interesting day, I think, when I have to test all these bikes. This thing is pretty small, so yeah, diving into the corners is not really a problem if you have wide corners like this, but also here some oversteer. I'm driving with a hood cam, so of course you cannot immediately see the movements of the car, but it's quite of a fight to drive this thing. Also here some understeer in the corner. Could go left or right of the van, and I needed to brake to eventually get past it. Oversteer, couldn't avoid this van either. Car oversteers, gets into a slide, and yeah, and there's the van, which you cannot correct the car because you're still busy sliding about. Kind of sticks to the road as long as don't have too much problems. But I think the main problem compared to the others is the acceleration. So you'll get a bit slower out of the corners with this thing. And here we have the free drive bug again. Although we passed the finish, doesn't want to immediately stop the counting of the time. But yeah, this is really some body kit they put on here. Whenever this thing decides to stop, here we are, we're gonna get a time of 3:33.4. So yeah, low 3:30s. Yeah, with the M4 I made a bit too much mistakes giving a 3:40, but that also definitely can do 3:30 something. The only two cars going under the 3:30 were of course me playing on a keyboard. You can get faster times out of these things, but the results should all sort of be the same, and that is that there are three cars going under the 3:30: the Mercedes C63 AMG and the Nissan Skyline. And in the test that we did here, the Skyline was the fastest, which yeah, makes it more logic as well, because if I would take the C63 into play that Season Pass DLC car, maybe not everybody has the Season Pass, so that also makes it more fair that we take the Skyline into the winner's battle. And that means that 7 cars for the sports category are done. From the hot hatches we took the Mini Cooper S into the winner's battle, and from the sports cars it will be the Nissan Skyline. I will see you guys in the next videos, which will be the supercars, but that is the largest category. I think there are 15 cars there, so I'm probably gonna split it up in 2 videos, that one. And then we will take 2 winners from the supercars, because that's the largest category. And eventually we're gonna end up on 10 cars in the winner's battle. But we still need a few winners first before we can do that battle. I will see you guys in the next one, and bye for now.